Welcome to Crouching Geek Hidden Nerd. I am Beth, and I'm going to be streaming for an hour just kind of talking nerdy stuff. And who do I have with me? One of my closest and my dearest and my loveliest friends, Monica. Hi, Monica.
Hey, how you doing?
Monica and I play D&D together, and we talk nerdy stuff. We talk a lot of stuff, but we
It's
talk
true.
nerdy stuff and other things. And I thought, hey, who more fun to have on here and talk about these things. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me as BP from BP, pretty much anywhere. I'm going to just type hello into chat in case anyone does show up, is around, and to encourage them to comment so I can get the viewership that I need to eventually have people be able to subscribe, because right now that's just not going to happen. And that's not for the money, that's just so I like when people watch. That felt personal, and I don't know that I want to repeat that. That felt weird. Uh,
It's
it felt awkward.
feelings.
Feelings. It
We can
felt
move on past
awkward.
that.
It felt awkward. Also, I do have my screen that shows like my streaming stuff above me. So if you see me looking up, I'm not having like some sort of fit or stroke. I'm just reading, like I'm trying to see if chat pops in or whatever. But anyway, as I was setting up this stream, Monica and I were actually talking about a subject we love, which is food. Because we have such diverse, like, there are a lot of things we like that are the same, and a lot of things we like that are very different.
Yes.
Who is that? Is that Annie? Still working, so don't be mad, but I wanted to listen in. Annie, I am never mad when you show up. We are never mad. We
Right?
know you're working, and, just keep listening, and if you have something to ask or say or want to comment on, go for it. And we're gonna get to the subject of weird foods we like, because it may not be weird to each one of us individually, but Lord knows it's weird to the other one. First of all, the first question I kind of ask everybody, and we kind of go over, and unfortunately, the very first session that I did, that was you, me, Annie, and Liz, didn't record for some reason. No
Yeah.
settings have changed, but they're recording now. Do you consider yourself nerdy or geeky?
Um, I consider myself that now, kind of a blend of it all, because
Okay.
I don't. My childhood wasn't nerdy, so as many of you know that talk to me, like there's so many things that and experiences in this culture that like movies and tossbacks and throwbacks that all of you have seen, and I have not seen or referenced any of this. Like I have bits and pieces of it, and I have more now that I've been talking to each and every one of you.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't something that was ingrained before.
Mm-hmm.
I was more on the let's just say I was an outsider, but just because I just never really fit in anywhere else with other people. And that
Okay.
was just because, I used to think it was a bad thing that I couldn't kind of fall into the social popular crowd and things like that. But I learned that it was just a thing of my own where I just had my own interests, and did different things, and that's been to the I guess a personality, like a trait of mine, and just it allows me to be able to be open to different things all the time. So I don't just have a set way of thinking of, oh no, that's not okay or that's not cool or whatever.
Okay.
So I can find different interests, give things
Mm-hmm.
a chance that some people may not.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, and I want, if anybody is listening, I mean, Annie's listening. We could probably talk directly to Annie. But
Yeah.
if anybody is listening and participating, Monica and I did cover a little bit of this before we got on air. So I just wanted to be clear. I am not asking her a question like out of the blue. Um, do you find in the black community that being a nerd is something that isn't, that you're less open about? Or does that have nothing to do with it at all?
I don't know if it's less open about, but in the community there is like many things. Like I think in the black community and culture, people were shunned away from the things such as maybe Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, and never got the full experience of it. So we kind of created our own sects of it. So you have to find your people within your people that do that. And now this is getting more mainstream, but there are sections of people, that are into Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And now we're starting to see the representation of Black people in Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy role play and things like that, where it wasn't kind of there before.
Right.
So
Do you think that was
kind
part of
of
it?
bring that in.
Is that you weren't feeling represented?
Yeah, that's always a part of a lot of things is there's lack of representation in the many things.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to people to see that not just it's not a division of color or race or anything, it's open to anybody and anybody should be able to see themselves in those games. That would be the best thing that would be out there. But that is difficult, as we can see with things that have happened lately with, not to get into political, all those things, but Little Mermaid, all that stuff that's happened. It's like
It's true.
it's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
Why can you not see this culture or this race or Black people as something that you're used to? And that's because you're used to another thing being set as the priority or the majority. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to see that break and change. Some
Mm-hmm.
people. Let
Some
me say
people.
not
Yeah. No,
some
no, no.
people.
Yeah. No, and I recognize when that's said, it's some people, and some people really
Yeah.
do struggle with change. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I it's funny. It's not funny, but everything with the Little Mermaid, sort of overrode because that became so huge on social media.
Hmm.
The freak out that some people were having over black elves.
Yeah, they were.
And I kind of missed that, and then was pedaling back, and I was like, wait, what? They're mad because I don't understand.
Yeah. Harry Potter, all the different places, like people have not wanted to say or said that that's not possible for a Black person to play this or a person of color to play that.
Mm-hmm.
And also to the fact of the same thing when Little Mermaid was going on, we now have House of Dragons, HBO,
Mm-hmm.
the House of Dragons movie. People are saying
Right.
that, the people that are playing on that show, and phenomenally, might I add, should
Mm-hmm.
not be there because they are persons of color. It doesn't fit into the role play or it doesn't fit into the fantasy. So I don't get it. Like,
Well, I don't understand people who make this argument like, an elf wouldn't be black, and I'm like, I want you to say that one more time. Like,
say it
actually
one more time.
hear what you're saying to me. An elf, you're mad because a high elf is being played by a person of color.
Hmm.
Say it again, because I don't think you're
Yep.
hearing what you're saying here. It's fantasy. Um, she says we froze. I'm looking at our count here. We're up. I hope we come back. I'm just gonna keep talking in the hopes that we're still doing our thing. I don't have. Uh, if I pull up while I'm doing this, if I pull up our stream, my entire computer just goes no, thank you. And like it's not that it can't handle it, but it's like in two different places and it doesn't know where to go. It's like I'm not sure what I
please,
should be looking at. Um,
please give me clear instructions.
exactly. You're trying to do two things at once. Annie said one of my best friends is African American and has mentioned that she never felt included in the larger groups of nerds and such. She was very into Star Wars. Oh, sorry, was very into Star Trek in high school, but is working to make sure her daughter doesn't feel that with her interactions in anime and cosplay.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
and that's representation. And
yeah,
it's hard enough going into spaces and places just being Black and people of color. It's hard enough stepping into a room
yeah,
and wondering how you're going to be received.
right.
But to walk up to someone or a group and say, "Can I play this game with you?" You know,
Mm-hmm.
or even wonder if you're, and I hate to use this term in this day and age, but allowed to play with you in this game.
Right.
That's either something that you're not going to do because of your pride and shouldn't have to, or it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you're just going to make you feel uncomfortable and it's hard to break out of that. So
Right.
It's
And,
it's it's a toss up.
and he said it froze on the Little Mermaid for a few seconds. Of course it did, because the man doesn't want to hear us talk about it.
It's the ops.
They're out there and they're watching and they don't like it.
Hmm.
But no, I actually agree with you, and especially if you are somewhat shy by nature, I'm
Hmm.
sure adding that, like having social anxiety to
Yeah.
begin with, and then adding to that
Yeah.
is like it's multi-tiered. Like it's hard
It
enough
is.
being I am a white female that, you know, still has anxiety walking into a group, but I don't carry anything else with that. I mean, like I
Yeah.
carry being fat, and that's hard enough as it is too. You know, I
Yep.
think, but there's weirdly, I think there's an expectation when you are overweight and nerdy that that's the norm.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think
You
there's,
don't.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't expect the pretty people to
mm-mm,
be into the nerd things, and
no,
of course, pretty people is by definition of overall standard, not a real thing, but that's
right,
why it's in quotations.
right. It's by the universe's standard. You
Right.
know what they all decide, pretty is. But yeah, they and which I don't love nor do I appreciate.
Right.
But at the same time, you look at it and go, well, you know, either this is what it is, or you know how
Yep.
you how you fight that out. But the funny thing is, and again, I apologize for anybody watching this, especially Annie, that is a Star Trek person, because I get all of these things infinitely wrong. But Uhura was very famously a black female,
Hmm.
Michelle, who just recently passed away, was very famously a black female on TV at a time playing a sci-fi character that was borderline unheard of. And a lot of people were
Hmm.
like, that's really amazing. Isn't it wonderful? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. That is amazing. And that is
Hmm.
wonderful. And then there's a huge gap of time
Yep.
where there's nothing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that's fantastic, and yes, it is a landmark, but the question is asked, who's after that? Who's the next person that you could say what had a role like that and was given that opportunity,
Right.
and not only the opportunity, but recognized and celebrated in that same space along with the same people. There's there's a disconnect. There's always a divide of, talent. You could have all the talent, you could have everything, but you just won't reach up to, and this is just because I know, like, just names, and it doesn't have anything to do with the person, but Meryl Streep levels.
Yes. No,
What
no, no.
person,
Yeah.
what person can get up to that level? Who can you? Who does the media and everyone else hold up in that same light to a person of color, to a black person? Where is
Yeah.
that at?
Where is that
And
at?
yeah,
I think I've heard a lot of people say, and it's from an interview, that Viola Davis
yeah,
is not only, I mean, not only on par with Meryl Streep, starred in a great movie with Meryl Streep called Doubt.
hmm,
Acting wise, she's brilliant. I had there has not been a thing yet that I haven't seen her in that I'm like, you're amazing, but I think would be honored more if things were different,
yep.
and she's not.
And she's not. And if you just going back into the walking into a room, Viola Davis has talked about in her many interviews all the problems and issues that she had with not being conventionally pretty, not
Yeah,
getting selected for roles,
right.
not from not fitting the part. She's had to fight and struggle to get to where she is. Again, maybe the old adage is you have to work twice as hard for us to get to just 50% of what someone else has. And I may have
Yeah,
that mixed up because I'm on spot right now. But anyway, we have to work twice as hard.
it's true though.
to get there,
It's true, to get the
to many places.
recognition, to get the
Right.
kudos you deserve. And I mean, I do remember when the new Star Wars grouping came out. One of the things about that was Finn. Finn, played by John Boyega, I think is his name. I'm going to have to look that up.
Hmm.
But he, there was a lot of heat. Yeah, Boyega. Um, there was a lot of heat because he was black,
Hmm.
and it's like, but why though?
Yeah.
But why? Like, why are people gatekeeping this amazing stuff? Oh, hi, Liz is here too. Hi, Liz.
Hey,
Um,
what's up, Liz?
uh, but there's so much gatekeeping, and that's another thing we can talk about in nerdishness. Is there are people who feel like they hold the right and privilege to particular things.
Absolutely. And that's when you start looking at the business level of things. You start looking at the business level and the top tier levels of who starts it, who handles it, who judges it, across the board, wherever you're looking at. And then you ask the question of, well, who's sitting at your table? Who do you have to help you out? Who do you have to say that this is, you know, related to this culture, that culture? Because now it's not only a black and POC type of thing; it's all cultures. There's other people that
Mm-hmm.
are looking for representation or looking for people for that step in. And if you don't have people at your table that represent those cultures and that people, or you're not looking for that, then you
Right.
could consistently do the same thing over and over again, or you're
Mm-hmm.
predominantly looking from a not a white perspective, but a perspective of, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever the right words is, I don't know. But the point is, you're looking at it from an old historical way versus, inclusion way
Right. Well, I
and a
mean,
diverse way.
we've talked about before the idea that there have been advertising campaigns that have come out recently, things
Yeah,
that have come out recently that where you look at them and go, "Who was in that meeting?
exactly. Like
Who?"
who's at your table and let that pass.
Yeah, who? And it tells you, it's very telling in that moment who was not in that meeting,
Yep.
who did not say, "Hey, this might be a bad idea, and here's why," or "This is how this is going to come off,"
Right.
you know.
Yep.
And you look at that
Like
and go,
this Yeah, and this is going to come off very insensitively because another thing you have to think about too is there are some things that people innocently may say,
"Mm-hmm,
that are just, whatever the case may be. However, they don't have the idea and the knowledge and the life of a person that says, hey, that's not a bad thing to call someone anymore. That's not a right word to say anymore because again, it can happen. You can not be you can be what's the word for it? Um, just have a bias,
mm-hmm."
and not know about it.
Yeah, be
You
totally
know,
unaware. Be
be
totally
totally
unaware.
unaware. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and there, I mean, there are some times where you hear people say something and internally you just go,
Yeah.
because you hear it out loud and you go, "Oh boy."
Right. And then you want to pull that person to the side and be like, "Hi, listen,
Yeah, let's
let's not."
let's talk about this. Let's go back and forth.
Right.
Um, and a lot of people, I feel like there are a lot of people in this world that want to have a dialogue. And there are a lot of things culturally I do not feel like it's my dialogue to have. I will back up
Yes.
all my friends and I will stand beside you and I will support you, and but at the same time there are some dialogues that I'm like, well, that's not my spot to do that. Not
Yeah.
because it would make me uncomfortable, it's because I will not explain it correctly. Or I'm
Yep.
going to come off as there is, so there is a whole thing in movies culturally And it is, and I didn't even realize, and this is my whiteness. I did not realize it was a thing in movies until I started looking for it. And it is the white savior,
Hmm.
that the white person comes in and does the thing and makes the speech. And it's like, initially when I heard that, not gonna lie, I was like, is that really a thing? And then I started
Yeah.
watching for it, and I was like, oh,
Yep.
that very much is a thing. That very much
Yeah.
is a thing.
For someone else to come in and save the day, or for the person of color or black person in the story to just not have the leading role.
Mm-hmm.
They can do
Mm-hmm.
all the things across the board, but they're not in that top spot.
Right. So there's a movie out right now that's getting mixed reviews, and I think the mixed reviews are on some level are valid. Um,
Hmm.
it's called Bros, and
Hmm.
I've heard people say, "Oh, I really loved it," and I've heard people say, "Oh, I really don't like it." But there's a lot of voices out there that are saying, "Well, the problem is that there are too many gay people involved. It was a gay director and a gay producer, and the entire most of the for the bulk of the cast is gay, and it's a gay lead, and really, that's why people aren't going to see it." And it was like, wait, what?
Right.
And I have an inherent problem with that. Like, if you don't like the movie because it's not good, that's valid. Feel free not
Right.
to like the movie. I have plenty of movies that I will fight people on. Anchorman being like one of them. That's the one I can think of off the top of my head. Like, so many people I know love the movie Anchorman, and I'm like, nope,
Yeah,
can't
I've never
stand it.
seen it.
Yeah, and that's
I've never
okay.
seen
You're
it.
not missing. From my personal perspective, you are not missing a single thing. But
Hmm.
um, to hear this perspective of, well, it was too gay. What
That bothers me because what does that mean?
what does it mean to be too gay?
What does that mean? Like, how does someone be too anything? How can that be? That's just like someone telling, and that probably has been somebody said, but somebody telling me I'm too black, or you're too white,
Mm-hmm.
or how? What does that mean? I don't understand. I don't understand this logic.
Right. Right. Liz said, who does that much research to find the orientation of people? That's too much work." That is the truth.
It's true.
That is the absolute truth.
It's the truth, but it's sad that it's real because
Mm-hmm.
again, if you look at the way of the world today and the people that are trolling for best terms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just spewing all these different things into the world, they will go the hardest
Oh,
to
they'll go
find
in.
things.
They go into the paint. Yeah.
They go into the paint and be like, how did you? When do you have time to do you work?
Yeah. Like, I have a
Like,
job. What are you guys doing?
right? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah. It's astounding. It's genuinely astounding. And and that covers a lot of things. There are a
Hmm.
lot of things where people right now, there's a bit of a kerfluffle in the Broadway community. Well, there's always a kerfluffle in the Broadway community, but there are a few things. Broadway has always had an issue with stunt casting. They don't like it when they um, have what they appear is stunt casting. So, plopping a celebrity in to a role that may or may not fit, um, because of a name. They're going to get a name grab, and they're going to, um, Liz said, too much variation from what has been considered normal. Yep, that's it in a
Yeah,
nutshell. Too much, too much. And people don't like that. And,
right.
but right now, like, there was a while ago on Broadway, Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, starred in the musical How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. If you get a chance, look it up on YouTube. Their Tony performance, it's breathtakingly good. Amazing. He kept up song wise, he kept up dance wise. Why? Because he's talented, and he has been a performer since he was a child. This was not his first Broadway show. He had been on in a different show previous to this. It was a play, and he's done other theater. He was the main person not nominated for a Tony. And when asked, the Tony people were basically like, we felt like he was stunt casting. And even though the show was nominated, the supporting actors and actresses were nominated. He, the lead, was not nominated because they were angry about it. There is also, right now, the show Funny Girl is running, a movie that starred Barbara Streisand in the role. And it was Beanie Feldstein who was in this role. She's been in movies, and she's talented. Not a
Mm-hmm.
strong voice, but strong funny, very funny. Liz
Mm-hmm.
said he was in Equus, and that was that was controversial in itself. Yes, it was. Daniel Radcliffe, when he was in Equus, was very controversial. In fact, I'd love to do, anybody out there that wants to be on here and have me do like a whole Broadway theater thing. Absolutely, talk to me. We will do it.
Tay, Tay,
Tay,
calling
yeah,
Tay.
yes, Tay. That's probably going to be part of my ones with Tay because I would love to talk theater, as you can tell. But Beanie Feldstein is again not a super strong voice, but very funny, and she got universally just she got the shaft by the producers in that show,
Mm.
and they brought in Leah Michelle, who was in the show Glee and very famously always wanted to play funny girl. Like her character on the show wanted to play funny girl. And so
Mm.
it's very much stunt casting, blatantly so. And there's a duality that is happening right now on Broadway with that show where there are people that are like, I don't want to see it because I don't like her, because of social issues that she has had, the way she has treated some people, and that sort of thing. And then there's also the folks that are like, this is pure stunt casting, we don't like it. And apparently when you go to the theater, there are people that are there that are such fans of hers, like they have to take more laugh and pause breaks because
Going at it.
they're going at it, they're in it deep. And
Wow.
yeah, so there is a there is an outlook in certain things that casting characters that don't quote match the race they are perceived to be is something that can get a show closed, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
It is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. James Earl Jones playing Othello on Broadway is iconic. There is film of him doing it. He is amazing. There's nobody more suited for the role, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, a huge deal because theater was primarily for white people.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's just there's so many great people. Oh, Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer
Mm-hmm.
Hudson just made her what's it called when you get all of them?
The EGOT.
Yeah, I think she just got her EGOT, and that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Like I was so happy to hear that she got that, but I
Mm-hmm.
want so many more people. I want that less to be less of a exclusive thing for um us to hear to happen because there's only been like three or two or three of them in like our
EGOTs
community.
in the
Yeah, that
black
are
community,
EGOTs.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in the black community. But there's so much. I know there's more probably on the other side, but I wanted to be. I wanted to see so many more people get into that space and get those awards, and it was so great to see Jennifer. And speaking of Jennifer, can we just talk a minute how she could just tear down the stage? I
She
mean, I know
can.
Fantasia can, but Jennifer Hudson, I love her voice.
Again on YouTube,
Absolutely love
if you go on YouTube, you can watch Jennifer Hudson in The Color Purple on the Tony Awards as well.
it.
And
Mm.
I can't. There are no words for it. Liz said, and there was the thing with the sleeves of the dress because of former Beanie Feldstein size. Yeah, that was all. There was a lot of fat phobia on in film on Broadway, and So apparently in the show Funny Girl, the dress that Beanie wears at the end, which is a bright red dress, very it's truly a stunning piece. It's supposed to be that stunner of a show ender. Had long sleeves. When Leah came on the show, it became a sleeveless dress and far more form fitting and uh, more sexual. And I mean that's something that we both can speak on as well, which is fat representation in
Mm.
film, in movies, which there
AKA
isn't,
non-existent.
which there isn't.
Yeah.
People will hold up one person and be like, "But hey, look at fill in the blank,"
Yep.
and it's like one person out of hundreds, and it's the fat funny friend.
Yeah.
You are the
I,
fat funny friend.
yep. You're the fat funny friend, and in similar light, you can never be the spotlight because why
No,
would you?
no.
Why why would you be? There's no way that the fat person could be the strong one, the superhero, the everything
Yeah.
because in society's eyes, fat people are weak,
Yep.
and not enough in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
but that just goes to the discussion of, fat is not a weight. Fat is not unhealthy. Let me put it that way. You have to know the person to know what their health is, what they can and can't do, so on and so forth. And people just put those stereotypes on us so quickly, from what
Mm-hmm.
they think that they see.
Well, I had a friend Wendy in college who I miss very much, and we haven't talked in quite some time. But it's one of those things. There's a poem out there that talks about you have a friendship for a season. You may not realize it's a seasonal friendship, but it worked while we were in college and everything else.
Hmm.
Wendy, she was amazing, so funny, my God, and she was very thin. I would almost call it idealized thin, like the thin people, like, oh, I wish I looked like you. She heard that all the time,
Yeah.
and she had a hard time keeping on weight. Like she used to have to drink and short. There was something with her metabolism. She had to take medication, and she said, I don't think people realize that when they call me skinny, it has the same. They're saying it with the same tang in their mouth as fat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Like socially, it's a little less awkward, but then she's being held up as what could equivocally be a standard,
Hmm.
and that's not what she wanted. It's not what
Right.
anybody really wants, to be honest.
Right.
None of us really want that. I don't want to, like it's your first physical impression of me is probably going to be fat,
Yep.
and that's okay. I've been fat since I was 17. Like
Hmm.
this is not news.
It's not news to me either. I was born 3 pounds.
Yeah, you were
However,
born
they
a tiny mite.
I was born tiny. But however, thanks to my mom and dad and everyone else, they fed me and they continued to feed me, and I fed me and made it all the worse. So,
No, it's not.
so,
But
but I say worse in my funniness of making it a joke,
sure,
But
because that's what we do
yeah,
first,
it's not a worse thing.
right?
But yeah, so it's just people have different paths. And you don't know, not you, but colloquially you, people don't know how we got here.
Yeah.
Whether it's, stress eating or medical or,
Mm-hmm.
the stress of lives. There's so many things
Yeah.
that could cause a person to have weight on them,
Yeah.
and we don't talk about a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's nobody's business and we should have to explain why my life is my life.
That is actually probably the truest thing ever. I should not have to explain why my life is my life.
Yeah.
I do what I can um uh to bring myself to I want people to see me more for the rest of who I am. I know
Mhm.
your first impression is going to be this, but I
Yep.
want your the rest of your impressions to move a different way. Liz said, same and underestimated till they see you do things they didn't think you could or would do. Exactly.
Right. Yep. You know, because there are some people that, they move mountains and they drive the huge trucks, and they're the person that's in a crisis, and they can overcome things that you can't even think about in the daytime. And those
Mm-hmm.
people carry, chunks of them. Not that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't define them. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't define what they can do.
No, I think there is a mentality, especially above with fat women, that we have a circle the wagons mentality.
Mhm.
When things go south, we are immediately on it like a
Yep.
machine. We are on it. The
Yep.
things are going to get done. We're going to do them quickly. We're going to help everybody as much as we possibly can, and we're going to go from there. Be ready,
Yep.
be prepared. Here we go.
Yep. But that just talk to the trauma, if you will, of living the life that we live. Because
Mm-hmm.
we always have to be prepared. We always have to be ready for what people are going to say. We always have to be on point. We always have to do all these things. So it's not a stretch for us to see an issue or be given an issue and to do that for everybody.
Right. Well, your guard is always up.
Guard is always
Your
up.
guard is always up. That's why I think some of us have so much trouble sleeping at night
Hmm.
and actually relaxing. When you are finally with a group of people you can relax with, it is very unique because in that time period, you're on guard 100% of the time.
Hmm.
Now, I'm going to bring something up. It is hang on. Liz said I skipped an intro to the CEO of my company because I was too busy getting a hospital prep by a storm. See? There you
There you
go.
go.
Yep. Busy, ready, circling the wagons. That's Liz. That's all of
Yep.
us, but that's Liz. Um, we were playing D&D one night,
Hmm.
and it was close to the end of our stream. And we are on this stream with two other amazing women and an amazing DM, and we always have fun playing it. And somebody came into chat and posted,
Mm.
how is that chair holding you up?
Yep.
And if you were to go back and watch that, knowing what episode it was, if you went back and watched it, you can see both of our faces freeze.
Hmm.
And you can see our wall go completely up.
Yep.
Because as a fat person, you know exactly who they're talking to and what
Yep.
they mean. This isn't a,
Exactly.
like, this came in as like a joke. Like, this person came in, saw us streaming, and what it did too is it touched on every single insecurity that we
Yep.
have. Because
Yep.
I know for Monica and myself, like, part of the reason I do this stream and it's because I want to get better at it. It's because I want more viewers. It's because I'd like to do this more often. And I like talking about nerdy stuff and subjects like this.
Hmm.
But it's to get more comfortable
Yeah, it
because
is.
that statement put in chat at that time was every time in both of our lives where you're told you aren't welcome here.
Yep. And not only not welcome here, but we're minding our own business in a safe space of ours that
Mm-hmm.
somebody comes into and
Mm-hmm.
interjects himself,
Yep. Kicks
which
down the
is
door.
which is everyday, almost everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a woman come up to me in Walmart and talk to me about my health and my weight as if she was a doctor of mine,
Mm-hmm.
under the guise of I'm concerned for you. You don't know me.
You don't know me.
And you're just
Yeah.
walking up to a stranger, and you have the audacity and the privilege to walk up a stranger and just spout your opinion
Yeah.
of what you think they should do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a big part of it too, is people think they have the right.
Yeah,
People think they have the right to have that conversation with you unwarranted
yeah.
and unwelcomed.
Because there's nobody I know, nobody that will walk up to somebody in the store and be like, "Hey, let me tell you about your life."
Yeah. Let
You
me
know,
tell you how you need to fix yourself.
right? Although we may should start doing it. Maybe we should get together and just go to random WalMarts.
Yeah.
Like, you know what?
Yeah. Let
This
me
is
tell
what I
you how
think
to
you should
fix
do.
yourself. Let me tell you how to fix
Right?
yourself. Yeah. Let me tell you what you're doing wrong. And that's part of gatekeeping. That's part of um so when we go out and we do nerdy things, or we go out and we try the right thing, or whatever, that's really hard for us.
Yeah,
That's really hard, you know?
yeah,
It's hard to be big when socially you want to make yourself small.
yep.
And to the person, should they ever watch, to the person who asked how the chairs were holding us up, they were holding us up just fine. Fine enough that the next time we played, we were back on the stream without saying a single damn thing.
Yep.
And in fact, you and I did not talk about it to the DM because
No, we did not.
the stream was ending and there was no point.
Right. The stream is ending, but I don't know because he never let on one way or another. But maybe he recognized and maybe he didn't. I don't know. But
Yeah, we don't even know if he saw it. Like, we have
yeah,
no clue if he saw it. We didn't know who saw it. You
yeah,
and I both know that we saw it.
yep.
And I think if that had happened in the middle of a game, because we are mods in there, you and I probably would have ended up blocking that person.
Yes, we would have.
But because it was the end of a stream, it was I don't want to say a non-issue, but it was like, there's no point in having
There's no
this
point.
argument.
Yeah, because you're saying this. And one of my biggest things is, for the keyboard warriors that are out there, they say
Mm-hmm.
these things behind screens, and they type things, and they can go on and on and on. But
Mm-hmm.
my favorite thing is go say it to somebody's face.
Yeah.
Somebody that looks like the person that you're keyboard warrior against, somebody that you're going up
Mm-hmm.
against. Have that conversation in person.
Yeah.
Say, but
Yeah.
not only have that conversation, say exactly what you said, how you said it. That
Right.
same energy that you
Yeah.
brought to the screen.
And then be willing to wait for their response.
Right.
Wait for the response.
Yep.
Wait for the
Exactly.
response.
Exactly, Liz. Say it to my
Say
face.
it to my face. Say it to my face. I always am impressed with people. If that happens, if you make a snarky remark, I always think it to myself, what would your parents say? More so, what would your grandparents say? What would somebody you loved say to hear that? Because sometimes they'd agree, but I suspect most of the time that is not the case.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Me too.
You know, um, that it's not cool to say those things, or do those things. Um,
Yep.
and social media right now is a friggin' minefield of nightmares. Like, I scroll past so many TikToks I can't even count anymore.
Yep. It's like I'm not engaging in that. Now there are some people, and I will admit that I do watch these on TikTok. Now, this depends on the person that you get when you're on there, keyboard warrior and all that stuff. It depends on the person because you can mess around and you get a person that say, it's not as important. I'm not even gonna, give you the attention. But some people will give you that attention, and you don't want that door to be open.
Nope.
They will put you down on the ground,
Yep.
both on TikTok, verbally, like they will find you
Yep.
and just like raise your whole life down.
Yep. Liz said, staring them down silently until they question all their life choices. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to just looking at the person going, Because there's a part of me that does want to ask sometimes, wants to ask people, like, did that make you feel better about you? Like, there's a whole conversation right now. There's a person on TikTok who made a comment that a 300-pound person has no right to
To a relationship or love or
relationship or
something.
love. Yeah. And people lost their minds and were commenting on her, making comments about her. And I'm not going to say who she is, although if you just look up TikTok, you will find her. She will end up in your FYP because there are so
Yep.
many people commenting on it.
Hmm.
The only thing I would ever want to know from her is, did it make you feel better?
Right.
Like, did it make you feel better about yourself to say this thing? For good or for bad? Did it make you feel better?
Right.
Because the reality there is, if I'm guessing, probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. It probably did not make you feel better.
And the thing is, my thing is, they say it, you know, but it's like the insequential things they say makes me like I'll turn it around and be like, you have to be insequential in anyone's life for
Mm-hmm.
you to be able to want to be such a big part of someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mean a lot to a lot of people, do you? Like
Right.
you don't have that connection or that core
Mm-hmm.
feeling of being, needed or wanted. But that's how I feel. Like,
Yeah.
I'll make somebody feel small in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Liz said she has actually said to people, "Do you feel better now?" They don't know how to respond and walk away awkwardly. But this
Yep.
comes back to also, like, yeah, support structure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And this comes back to, like, there's a relatively consistent joke that occurs all the time, and it talks about people who are ordering at a restaurant, and the
Hmm.
joke, though they may not be saying it, it's always a fat person, and they order all these things and then they get a diet coke.
Oh yeah.
First of all, don't effing yuck somebody's yums. How about that? They may like diet coke. The diet
Yep.
coke may have nothing to do with the food they ordered. And
Right.
second of all, as long as people are paying their bill, who the hell cares what they order?
Why
That's
are
not
you
your
watching?
business. Yeah, why do you care? It's not your business. It's not your business.
Yep.
Period. Which I actually think is a great segue, because what we were talking about before we came on the air here. And by the way, yes, this is crouching. This is Crouching Geek Hidden Nerd. But the joy of this show is we can talk about whatever we want. And we were talking about steak.
Which
And
I'm just about to place my order for, by the way.
Miss Monica, who I love so very much, you like your steak how?
My steak has to be well done.
In fact,
And
what you
if
said to me exactly was a little burnt.
yes, so there's a difference, and I'll explain really quickly. So yes, I generally eat my steak well done. When I'm at the restaurants, it's well done. When I make my steak at home, it's in a broiler and it's burnt around the edges. So yes, there's just a qualifier, but yes, it is always well done.
So I grew up in a house where everything was well done. And I did not like meat. I did not actually eat red meat voluntarily uh, till I was probably like 18 or 19 years old. And I went to a restaurant and I got a steak and it came out medium. And Monica does know, although I tend to make a fuss about a lot of things, I do not make fusses at a restaurant.
Hmm.
I perceive that as, and I'm here for anybody who does. Like, you want to send I will send food back for people. Like, if it comes out very wrong and you can't eat the thing that they've brought, nope, get it, go right back. Like, their meal is incorrect.
Right.
For my own meal, though, I don't do that. And I, so I got a steak that was medium for the first time, and I was like, I'll just eat it. Like, I know it's pink, but I'll just eat it. And I loved it. It was delicious. It had flavor and was not dry. Liz says, it's the bark on the steak. I love broiled steak. My mom used to make it that way when I was a kid. I will say this: if it is done correct, I agree. Like, look at a barbecue, I'm picking burnt ends every time.
We agree on that. Burnt
Yeah,
ends will
burnt
win.
ends are amazing. They are amazing. I have a love for it, but I have gotten to the point where I eat most of my steaks medium rare. Hell, I love beef tartare. Love it. The
Nope.
horror on your face is fantastic for me, by the way, because I saw
Nope.
you. You're just like, no,
Mm.
no.
Nope. I thought about it for a second. I considered it as nope.
Yeah, yeah. Liz said, absolutely. So a three-way fight for those. Got it. Yep. Yeah, I
Right?
will fight people over burnt ends. Um,
Note to self:
yes.
barbecue. Make sure extra burnt ends.
Extra burnt ends. There's actually a place in Colorado when I go to visit my brother. I have not had it for a while. They make a burnt ends sandwich that is absolutely delightful. It's named Moe's. If you're in Boulder, go to Moe's.
Mm.
Because their barbecue there is fantastic. Their pulled pork is amazing. But I, a big part of that is my mother was a very good cook. Red meat seemed to be the bane of her existence, and she did not. She cooked it very well done. Very well done.
It wasn't the debate of her sister. She was a Pisces like me. Like, it has to be done.
Has to be
It's not
done.
done.
Has to be done. And I mean, it was that way too for a lot of things, though. Like everything had to
Oh.
be done. However, it was everything had to be done, but I mean, like if my mom didn't like it, uh, let's just say respectfully to my mother and her memory, she did not take extra care with it. Let's say. Like my brother and I both, I'm going to be 50 this year. My brother is going to be 47. My mother's been gone for 4 years, and we still can't eat lemon pepper on anything because she would put that on fish. We had it every
Hmm.
Friday. We would have lemon pepper fish fillets, and it wore on our souls so deeply, we cannot eat it again. Cannot. Cannot. Like I smell it. I know the smell of that seasoning, and I'm like, nope, can't. Cannot eat it. Liz said, I'm a medium well girl. I can't take the texture of anything less than that. That's fine too. I think a lot of it was texture for me growing up. And again,
Mm.
not yucking anybody's yums. I tease Monica all the time about certain things that she does like graham crackers and cheddar cheese.
I was like, oh, we're getting there. We're
Yeah,
so gonna get
we're
the graham
getting
crackers and
we're
cheddar
getting
cheese.
into graham crackers and cheddar cheese. Um, but oh, it's Taylor. Hey, Tay.
Hey, Tay.
Um, Hello, Taylor.
We
When I have you on here, I'd like to talk about Broadway, if that's okay.
I nominated you as
Yes, you were
well.
nominated, and I would like to talk about Broadway. I would like to do a whole nerd out on Broadway and musicals and theater. Um, but but yeah, no, yeah, you just have, but a lot of that. Okay, so let me be honest. Full disclosure, I did try cheddar cheese and graham crackers, and I hated it. Um,
Very much hated it. I have
very
the
much
pictures.
hated it. Um, but I think part of that, and I'm not saying you don't think it tastes good. I know you like it and it tastes good to you. But a lot of
Yeah,
the reason you like it is because your mother liked it and that's how you grew up
absolutely.
eating it.
Yeah, it adds memories to it.
Right. I mean, I grew up eating
Yep.
Polish food.
Yep. And the graham crackers and cheese, it wasn't a everyday thing, but on Sundays when my mom was cooking dinner after church, stuff like that, she
Mm-hmm.
would sit down and that would be her snack. She would have some graham
Yes.
crackers and she would have some cheese. And of course, me being the person that was right behind her all the time or right under her, I did the same thing. So it just
Right.
carries those memories.
Right. Oh, I mean, food has amazing memories. My grandmother used to make pierogi, and but she didn't make it in like the classic mashed potato, very doughy, like dumpling kind of way.
Mhm.
She made them more of a uh, Russian Jewish descent, which was
Mhm.
more of a blintz. It looked like, but it was a savory blintz. There was nothing sweet about it. I am the
Mhm.
last person left alive in our family tree that likes them. But the recipe makes like it cannot be halved and it makes like 30 and it doesn't freeze well. So these are all things that mean like it's off my radar for the rest of my life. But for a long time, I was in the house. My dad and I were the only ones who liked it. And then when he passed, it was just me. And I'm like, I'm not making them for just me. Yay. Taylor said yes, please. She will do a Broadway one with
What?
me.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
after your second thing? Go ahead.
And I was going to say that Liz said saltines and butter. There is something delightful about saltines and butter.
Mhm.
There is something delightful. I can get behind that. Okay, have you ever tried putting everything bagel seasoning on there if you like it? Like saltines, butter, and a little bit of everything bagel seasoning? It's just lovely all
Everything,
around.
everything bagel seasoning goes on a lot of things, like
Yeah,
a lot of things.
it's good. All right, you were going to say, I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. So about the pierogi. So I heard you say that you want to make it for yourself,
Yeah.
but that ties in. It kind of ties into what we talked about earlier about just kind of being the bigger person and stuff like that. In body shape way, not bigger person, whatever else people talk about. Why don't you make them for yourself? Even though it's a large thing, and I know you can't eat a lot, but can't you give some of them away, like
Here's
to
okay.
different people
So
that could
there's
use?
there's a there's a thing there with that one, and that comes with the fat thing, and that is we tend not to treat ourselves.
I know. That's what I was wondering.
We
Like, is it
don't
part of
like
that?
as fat people, and I don't pretend to speak for the entirety of the fat community, but
Yeah.
there is a habit amongst us that we actually don't treat ourselves. The other thing is when I say that it is unique, I'm going to tell you what it is, and we'll go from there. The
Okay.
the pierogi is this. It is a crepe. The crepe really does not have a flavor. It is a savory crepe, so there is no sugar in it. It is basically a flour, egg, a little bit of milk, and water. Enough water to make it thin enough to become a crepe. And you fry them up on either side, get them sort of a yellowy golden color. You let them cool, but you stack them between paper towels so you keep them moist. The steam will keep everything sort of soft and pliable.
Mhm.
The mix is dried cottage cheese, shredded onion, an egg to bind, salt, and pepper. And you scoop it in, and then you put the little scoop in the middle, and you kind of fold it up like a little package, and then you fry them in butter. Now,
Okay.
and then you eat them like so. We would have them with dinner on Christmas Eve, and then we would have them Christmas morning with breakfast in the place of a potato for some people. Other people, because not everybody liked them, other people would have potatoes, but we would have them in place of a potato.
Mm.
It is not it is not just because of the quantity it makes or that I'm the only one left living that still likes them. We are talking about something that at best is a complicated flavor and at worst is something that bulk of people don't like because the second I say dried cottage cheese, and it doesn't mean dried hard and like hard, it means that
Yeah.
all the liquid is out of it. You can usually find it in the grocery store. If they don't have it, you take regular cottage cheese and you put it in cheesecloth and you let the liquid run out until it's like firm. Not a soft ricotta, a hard ricotta.
Mm.
Okay. Sorry. Taylor said when I was pregnant, I cried after eating a peanut butter and jelly dipped in ranch that I was craving all damn day. It was glorious. I will never yuck your yums. That
Uh,
I can't even picture it, but that's
you know,
fantastic.
I can't like I saw her comment. I was like, mm. But the thing that I won't get you either. But the also thing is you were pregnant, so that kind of gives an extra twist to it. Like,
Yes.
okay,
And
I
the
get
fact that you
it.
cried, that you enjoyed it that much, I'm here for that as well. Um,
Right.
And Liz said, if you're ever in find ourselves in Massachusetts, I will have to take you to Patty's Pierogies. They won't be like your mom's, but they are locally famous. I will definitely go. There's a place around here called Cop Out Pierogi that is a former police officer uses his mother's recipe. He makes cottage cheese pierogi, but he does it with a thicker dough, and they're kind of sweet inside, and so it doesn't quite hit the mark as it should. And to be perfectly honest, I shouldn't really eat them at all with lactose intolerance being what it is. But that is something I will medicate for. And yes, if I am in Massachusetts with you, we will go to Patty's Pierogi and eat there. But yeah, there's. I mean, it's odd, but that's a bunch of the things that it's just like, you know, food has memory.
Yeah,
And even
there's
simple
so many
food
things.
has memory. Like I can't walk past this box of Special K cereal without think without thinking of my granddad, my
Yeah,
Jaja, because that's what he ate every morning. Special K cereal, no sugar on it. This is
true.
also
Cornflakes.
this is also the same old man that used to put ketchup in his tomato in his chicken noodle soup because it didn't have enough flavor. Yeah, I can't really talk about it. Like there again, this is not I want to yunk anybody's yums, but I just want you to think about that.
I am. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Like, oh no,
he would get the Heinz out of the fridge and just a blop into his bowl of
of chicken
chicken
noodle
noodle
soup.
soup. Yeah. I still don't know if it's because maybe his mother died when he was young. So maybe his mother never really made chicken noodle soup but made something with tomatoes in it and that's what he remembers or,
Yeah, maybe.
whatever. I don't know. And to be honest, I never asked him. That was not a conversation that Jaja and I would ever had.
Mm,
This is also the same man that used to keep Seagram's 7 under the kitchen sink and called it his medicine until I was 16 years old and knew what alcohol really was, thought it was his medicine.
uh,
I thought, oh, he's taking his medicine. No, he's having a shot of Seagram's. Like,
I think that's a lot of parents though in that age group that did that. Like,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure I've heard of a lot of children and probably even myself at some point. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, it's just my medicine, or it's just X Y
yeah,
Z. You're like, oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
And
Liz,
then
go ahead.
I was like, and then you figure out your parents have flaws. That's a whole
Yeah,
nother conversation.
yeah, that's a whole different conversation. Um, Liz said, always amazes me how just the scent of a food brings back memories, especially when it comes out of nowhere. That is very true. That
Hmm.
is very true. My grandmother, and it's not just food. My grandmother Anders wore White Shoulders perfume plus a different scent. It was a body lotion, but combined made a very specific smell.
Hmm.
And she had been gone about a year. And I walked into the ladies' room at a restaurant, and it was that exact smell, the exact same.
Hmm.
And you have that flash where you go, "Oh, Grandma's here." And it's like,
Yes.
oh no, she is not here. She is not. She is definitively not here. You know.
I've done that in my house. I've done that. I walked into a room and that smell hits me, and I'm like, wait, what? Hold on.
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
figure out some things
Yeah.
really
Which, by the
quickly.
way, we can do a whole episode if Taylor would like to join us of the DPC and
Ah, yes.
the TPC and grief. Not the time right now, but yes,
Right.
because that's a whole different world. Liz said, I knew what alcohol was and thought my grandmother drinking a glass of wine was a scandal as a small child. I love that. So there's a rather infamously in our family a Christmas Eve. I was probably about 14, where my babka, my grandmother Piantek, uh, passed out. And my father at the time, even I knew, was unnecessarily angry, I felt like. And he's like, this damn house is too hot because we were at their house. And it was. They had radiator heat. And if anybody has lived in a house with radiator heat, there is very little way to cool it off once it really starts rolling. And
Hmm.
I remember one time years later, my mother was talking about it, and I said something about grandma passing out. And my mother laughed, and she said, your grandmother didn't pass out because the house was too hot. She passed out because the gin was too cold. And I was like, oh. And that was
Like,
my
oh,
yeah, and that was my first foray into family alcoholism. Um, you know, but
no,
I was like,
I can
oh,
only imagine your mom telling you, like, no, no, she just passed out. She was drunk. It's
yeah,
fine.
she
Don't
was
worry
drunk.
about it.
Yeah, and that's why she passed out. She was drunk. She had been drinking all day in the kitchen, and you know, and that's also a whole nother conversation about the life growing up with functional alcoholics, which was pretty
Yeah.
much my dad's entire family, uh, which is pretty much why I don't drink now. Um, I don't miss the banging of pipes in the walls. Let me tell you something. That that radiator heat, when it would get rollicking in the wintertime and it would just boom, boom, boom throughout the house, hated it. Hated it. Hated every minute of it. It was not fun. It was not fun. But yeah, food is tied to so much in our lives, in our world. Um, and
Yeah.
as a fat person, you're supposed to kind of universally reject it and reject all the things that come with it.
Yep.
But the truth of the matter is, it's very important in some ways to who we are. Food
True.
food for a lot of us is culturally based.
Mhm.
My dad's side of the family, very particularly, my mom's side was English, and when I say they had no taste in food, I feel like that is the understatement of the century. Um, but English and Scottish isn't much better. But my dad's side was uh, Jewish and converted uh, later, but Jewish Polish. Um, and a lot of those foods and those flavors, which are very complicated, are things we grew up with. Um, Marinated herring, something we ate a lot of. Pickled fish, pickled everything. Borscht, and there was one very specific soup called chanina, which loosely translated is duck's blood soup. You can pretty much do the math on that from there and what seasons it. Um, it's not all pretty. Pig's feet.
No.
I remember pig's feet being in my grandparents' fridge. Marinated pig's
Really.
feet. Yes, in big jars.
I would assume the cooking is probably different. Like the cooking of the
It
pig's feet
well,
is
so
probably different.
yes, absolutely. Because ours was more of a pickled
Mm.
pig's foot. Um, and that was more of, so again, Judaism. So ham for a long time was a no. My grandparents, although raised certain ways, were not practicing Jews. There were things that they did. Left the door open for Elijah, an empty chair. Celebrated Rosh Hashanah in their own
Mhm.
ways. Yom Kippur, that sort of thing. We didn't really celebrate Hanukkah. They also did, though, have pickled pig's feet in the fridge because a lot of it came down to food waste. And they didn't have money.
Yeah.
And so you ate the cheapest things, the cheapest cuts of meat. My grandmother was known for often having cow tongue. As yep, nope, nope. I don't want something to taste something that's going to taste me back. Oh, thank
Right.
you.
Nope. 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 I'm good.
Mm-mm. No thanks. Nope.
So I would be remiss if I did not bring up this conversation
Sure.
and all everything that I am. So let's
Sure.
talk about seasonings.
Oh boy. Okay.
Now we know that we know the word the everyday thing. I mean, typically white people don't season.
Yes,
I know you season your food.
I do.
I know that.
Muchly.
But now, what about your parents, grandparents? Like, what was seasoning like in your young life?
Non-existent. My mother, it was salt, pepper. If it was Italian, if she was making sauce, even if she used jarred sauce, she would put like oregano in there.
Mhm.
Um, Garlic. I think garlic was probably like our main quote unquote seasoning, and onion was used as a seasoning a lot. In the Polish side of things, a lot of dill, like dill heavy, and also a lot of pickling. So think pickling spices combined
Okay.
with like vinegar. So like
Okay.
baseline flavors there. My
Yeah.
father never really liked things super seasoned. Like salt and pepper was just fine with him.
Mhm.
And then as he aged, like we couldn't even really do garlic and onions anymore. So food became very bland.
Ooh.
Yeah, like I would keep my own seasonings off to the side. What about you? Now, did you like? Is that was everything well
Always.
seasoned?
It always has been like just looking at my mom's like watching my mom. It was always the basic trio: garlic pepper, or excuse me, garlic powder, pepper, seasoning salt. You know, at the least, at the very minimum, goes on everything. But
Mm-hmm.
then, depending on what you were making, then you have the celery salt, then you have the paprika, all the different stuff that goes in. And I think I've made it worse because
Mm-hmm.
I use seasonings that my mom never would have used as far as flavor, and my dad complains, well, you use all this stuff, but I don't use it when I cook for him, but he just thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more now that I can explore with and do different
Mm-hmm.
things. I think that's the best part of like cooking is figuring out how much better you can make the dish,
Right.
and how the different tastes that you can give, not textures, but the different tastes that you can give, for nobody wants to eat the same thing, 3 days a week. So maybe you could change it with seasoning and just finding out what that is. So
No,
that's
I
why I brought
agree.
it up. Like what does it look like? Like how much do you use? Like do you want like if somebody sits down the plate of you that's a heavily seasoned meal, are you like no, not at
So
all.
I'm always yes. I am always yes to seasoning. Like because if you've made me something and it is seasoned, like if I know you as a cook and I know that you've seasoned something, I'm
Mhm.
gonna try it. One of my best friends, who I love dearly, Chris, tends to salt his food without tasting it.
Mm.
And that bites him because, like, one time he had soup, he put some salt on it, and it did not need it, I promise you, and it became too salty. But it is a thing that he does that just drives me insane. I'm like, taste it first. You don't know. You don't know the cook in the kitchen. You don't know who is doing the seasoning. Taylor said, my mom, all about seasonings, and she loved cooking. I use paprika regularly because of her. Yeah. And then Liz said, salt, pepper, onion powder was my grandmother's staples. My mom spent a semester in Mexico, so we had more spices, but my grandmother made dinner most nights growing up. Yeah, salt, pepper,
Mhm.
and there really was rarely anything that didn't have an onion variant in it, whether it was actual onion or or like onion powder. I will say my mom used to make something on the regs called poor man's, and what it was ground beef, at least a pound of ground beef, more if we had it, because my
Mhm.
grandparents, her parents always we split a cow. So we always had beef in the fridge, much to my chagrin. But it was ground beef that was browned, and then she would lay on top of the ground beef thinly sliced potatoes that had been peeled, an onion, and salt and pepper. And she'd lit it, and when she would lit it, the potatoes would steam and the stuff would steam. So nothing would really burn, but it would just cook.
Mhm.
And literally, I'm not kidding you, salt and pepper were the only seasonings on it, and your flavoring was ketchup. You would dip it in ketchup. So you'd take a forkful, dip it in ketchup. My brother would put ketchup on the top. So the last time I was in Colorado visiting my brother, he asked
Mhm.
me to make it, and I was like, "Are you kidding?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Do you want me to put anything else in it?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay."
Dude, I would have
I
like, yeah,
did.
no. I'm like, no,
I
we're gonna
did.
put seasoning in it this time.
I seasoned mine. Like I did not
Uh,
cook mine with seasonings, but I did put seasoning on mine.
mhm.
But for him, I made it traditionally like how my mother used to make it. He loved it. But for him, that was very much a memory flavor.
Little brothers are annoying. They want
They
weird
are.
things.
Taylor said garlic powder too in everything. Yeah, garlic powder in
Yeah.
everything. Um,
Yep.
yeah. When I
If I
was,
can't
yeah,
taste, if I can taste the garlic, I'm like, wait, where is it? What's happening? Which
yeah.
my indigestion does not like. However, I keep doing it.
Don't stop. Just, you know. So, and Monica and I had this conversation because we were talking about food insecurity and not being able to afford certain things. And when I was in college and I didn't have money, I would make something I genuinely called it gruel. Like, that's just what it was. I would get the big bag of rice and I would cook the rice in water and cream of mushroom soup or cream of chicken soup or cream of celery soup. Whatever cream of soup was on sale at the store in the dented can section. But I always had cheap spices and I always put onion powder and garlic powder in it. And it would last me for a couple days and it was like stomach glue. Like it would just it was hot and would fill you up. And when you don't have money and you don't have food, what you do have, those are the two elements in it you want. But by God, I was using dollar store spices to make that taste like something.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't imagine a place with a food with no spices, no taste to it.
Yeah.
Like I'm already picky about eating. So you give me,
No.
yeah, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But you give me something that has no flavor to it, and I'm just like. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Also, on the same vein as this, is those 5-star Michelin restaurants that give you small plates or small portions. I don't understand those restaurants.
So my
Oh,
friend Chris and Sean, they love those places. They are fancy, smancy, bougie as hell. Hang on. Liz said, I never knew we had food scarcity as a kid, but looking back, I realized there were some times. Yeah, see, that's actually
yeah.
another thing.
Yep.
There was a conversation I had one time with my mother. I was out of the house, and I said to her, I said, "What is that chicken casserole recipe?" And she's like, "What chicken casserole recipe?" And I said, There was this chicken you would make that would had pulled chicken, and it had the French style green beans and rice, and then it was, I think, a can of cream of chicken soup, and you would make it. And she said to me, she was like, "Beth, that was leftovers." She's like, "I would just make it into something new. There was no recipe there." She's like, "I just would make it." She's like, "Because we didn't have anything for dinner available to us the next day because your dad, wasn't getting paid till the end of the week." My dad was a salesman that worked solely on commission. Like, he didn't get paid a salary. He got paid on commission. So if sales were soft that week, things were tight,
Right.
And so you just live this. And I don't think people really, when you're a kid, you don't think about what you have and what you don't have until
You
you
don't.
get older and go, whoo.
Yeah. See, the food scarcity as a kid is something that's not my space, but I can talk to you about the other side of it. As far as when I was a kid, we always had food. Never struggled for it. Never had, there was always something to eat, if not multiple things. But that's when I was a kid. I grew up with my grandparents, and I've heard the stories about when their kids were growing up. It was a completely different story. Where my mom had the menu planned out every week that she stuck to the menu and made that because my dad was working and they had to get groceries. But the same story is where they didn't have a lot to get a lot, so they had to struggle and make meals for their kids, and that was a family of 6 kids, 2 adults.
Yeah,
So I know I've heard those stories. I haven't lived it, which is why I don't talk about it. But I know that they've struggled, to
right,
get where they were. So,
right.
but my thing is in food insecurities and food deserts is I think about corner stores in the neighborhoods, in
Mm-hmm.
places that don't have supermarkets
They do not.
for both children and older people. Those are these my two concerns. It affects many more.
Yeah.
But if I had the chance to and the money to say when I hit the lottery, I would love to create a mobile space for grocery stores to come to people and take away that food insecurity. Because when you think about there's people and children that doesn't know what an orange looks like or a banana
Mm-hmm.
or
Who has
better
not
yet
eaten who
said,
has not eaten
uh,
fresh vegetables or fresh
yeah,
fruit. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I was gonna correct too. Fresh vegetables, because there may be an old, almost expired banana in the corner store or some type of crappy fruit, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's a I don't want to call them a charity. They're a resource that I love in
Hmm.
Pittsburgh that I usually do a fundraiser for every year for my birthday. And it is 412 Food Rescue. And they retrieve food from grocery stores, from bakeries. Um, when grocery stores feel like a banana is looking too ripe, they actually throw it out.
There's so much
There's
waste.
so much food waste, and what they're doing is not only trying to relieve people of food insecurity, but take care of uh, food waste at the same time. So, what 412 Food Rescue does is they create bags of groceries for people, but they also create meals for people. So, you get some meals and you get some fresh groceries to make meals yourself, or have snacks, or do whatever you need. But it creates this space of ability to have what you're looking for. And that's something for me that, I mean, again, we're back to if I hit the lottery, that would be a big thing for me. All right, let's see. Liz said, story I was always told from Blizzard of 78, the local corner store worked on a tab system because that was before credit cards were the real thing, because people were running out of food and couldn't get to the bank for cash. And that's an
Yeah.
awesome corner store that did that.
Hmm.
Lots of places don't do that or wouldn't do that nowadays. And yeah, food insecurity is such a huge thing.
It is.
And we saw a bit of it in COVID when there was hoarding, weirdly, of, again, toilet paper,
Toilet paper.
which
Yeah.
still I don't understand. Like, I understood more about the like, harder to find, like, the hand sanitizer. I got that because that's not
I did
something
too.
people generally buy a lot of, and all of a sudden everybody needed it.
Yep.
So I understood that. Or, even the paper towels, paper products in general, toilet paper boggled my mind.
I just could like, what are you doing? Like, why? What do
What
you
is
plan on
happening?
happening?
What do
What do
you
you
what
plan
do
on
you think's
happening?
gonna happen? Yeah, because they had that, but then, I mean, the stores themselves. I mean, and we're not even gonna get into grocery prices. But the
Yeah.
stores themselves really struggled keeping certain things on their shelves that were sustainable. It wasn't the fresh food products that were a problem. It was weirdly
True.
things like, I remember walking down the grocery aisle in my mask and looking, and they were completely, when I say completely, I mean completely out of SpaghettiOs. Like, not a kind, not a variant, not a nothing. And I thought, how odd. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing that got cleaned out. There were other things. There were a lot of things. Like, if you look just across the aisle at the other side, there were instant mashed potatoes that all you needed was water and a microwave, and you would have mashed potatoes. And it was fully stocked, and it was like, I
Nope, it's
don't, I don't
SpaghettiOs.
get it. Um,
But the
yeah,
petty part of me tells me, like, of course I wouldn't do this unless somebody pushed me to that level. But the petty part is people that bought all those SpaghettiOs. Like, if something did happen that was whatever that word is I can't
catastrophic.
pronounce. That There you go. If it was that level of things, I would be the petty person to buy all the can openers. And be like,
Yeah,
so
all
much
the
for this.
handheld can openers that the electricity. Yep, and sell
Right?
those. Yeah, you'd be that
Yeah,
person. I love that.
yeah.
I love that. Liz said, I have a bottle of Budweiser hand sanitizer from the height of COVID. I'm keeping it for the novelty. I think my brother has one that was Coors. He has Coors water too because they make
Oh
that
yeah,
out
because
there
it helps.
and they help
That's
with
right. I
water.
forgot that.
Well, I remember going
Hmm.
to the store and everybody was buying the bottled water and they had a sign up you could only buy two like 12 packs. And right next to it there were cans of water, like still water, like tap water, not like
Hmm.
and nobody was touching them. And so I grabbed one just in case. I mean, the water was still working in my house, but I grabbed one just in case because everybody else was buying one. And somebody said, "What's that?" I said, "It's water." And they're like, "Bubbling water?" I was like, "No, it was like still tap water." And they were like, "That's weird. It's in a can." I'm not arguing it's not weird, but it's also sustainable.
Right, it's still water.
And it's water. Like it's just I'm just having it in my house. I think I finally used it up. Like it was one of those things like you have to use it by a certain time and I was like I'm just going to drink it. You know.
Yeah.
I was cuz I was using tap water. Who was, but
Well,
there were a lot of
here's where
things.
we, and here's where we differ too in the ways. And of course, again, in an emergency, I would not be this way. But
However,
however, right now, as things are, you give me tap water, I'm gonna look at you crazy. In my family, I won't go. Like if I go to somebody's house,
I
I
drink
won't be
tap
that
water.
rude.
I drink
Yeah, I
tap
won't be
water.
that rude.
I like cold water. Like
Yeah,
give me water with ice in it, but I drink tap water.
yeah,
I'm that girl. It's not that
yeah.
I don't have bottled water. I do. It's not that I don't drink bottled water. I do. But
Hmm.
I am
You
also
drink
not
tap water.
that person. Yes, I drink
Yes.
tap water too.
She's
Um,
not me, so I am me.
yes.
And I will tell you a funny story that is replaced badly on me and no one else. My mom was nice enough one time to bring me a glass of cold water that I asked her to. I was like, hey, can you go get me a cup of water? Because I was doing some stuff. And she didn't know. And she brought it up, and she brought it up with tap water. And I tasted it, and I was like, what is this? Who has replaced my regular water with tap water? And I had to call her. I'm like, what happened? I'm like, where did you get this water from? Did you get out the refrigerator? Did you get out? Oh, I got out the tap. Oh, okay. I love you. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
I love you so much. That's
And I
hysterical.
am also, and I am also the person that can tell the difference, like the taste in different bottled water. So I do have
I am
preferences in that as
too.
well.
There are a lot of people who don't like Dasani.
Dasani, yep.
I
Deer
like it.
Park.
I like it. I
You
drink
like
Deer Park.
Dasani?
Sure, why not? I don't like Aquafina that much, but I think it tastes super distilled. That is why I
Mm-hmm.
don't like it. I think it tastes super distilled. But yeah, Deer Park, Fuji, Iceland from Icelandic water from uh, Walgreens, Dasani. I'll drink it. It's fine. Is it cold? Great. Pass it over.
Ma'am, I am going to smack the Deer Park out of your hands. Whatever the Deer Park ever hears this, I don't care. Stop it.
It's not
Stop it.
bad.
Stop
It's
it.
fine. And
Stop
if it's
it.
cold, it doesn't matter. It's water.
Oh no. Anyway, moving on to other things that will not cause argument on the screen. Like, no, stop it.
Yes. Liz says, well, first she said like milk in a bag. Yes. Isn't that a Canadian thing?
It's a
Which,
Canadian thing.
yeah, which does not bother me at all, but it's just not something I'm used to. I will not drink the tap water here without sending it through a Brita filter. That's fine. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of places maybe don't have the best tasting water. Um, I don't, the stuff in Pittsburgh's fine. Like, it doesn't bother me. Doesn't taste funny. Doesn't bother me. He's fine.
It's fine.
He's fine.
It's good.
He's
I was gonna
fine.
tell you. I was gonna tell you a story. What was the story I was gonna tell you?
I don't know.
Oh, I think we were talking about the season, the pre-seasoning of like you said your friend Chris does with the pre-salting. My dad has a story of when he was a kid, and you have to imagine that my dad is now 88 years old. When
So
he
it's
was
been a
young,
time.
yeah, a young adult style kid, young adult. So of course, family would sit at the kitchen table, and nobody, his grandmother, his grandmother, either
Hmm.
his grandmother or great grandmother, either one, but she cooked, and everybody was sitting at the table and presented the food. Everybody started to eat, and nobody pre-salted their food. No, you don't do that,
Yeah.
except one person I think tried, And then my dad said that his grandma was like, you don't need that. Basically, flat out, like that's not required. You don't need that at all. But the only person that she would let do it is like the reverend that complimented her, all the time, and she would let him like priest all this food. It's a crazy thing, and I'll have my dad tell you the story one time because it's way more amazing coming from him. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was one of the funniest stories where his grandma's just like, no,
No,
absolutely, this food is seasoned perfectly because I cooked it, so don't you dare.
don't you think about it. I will say too that there are certain things we used to, you put a little salt on tomatoes, you put salt on corn or whatever. There are certain things
Yeah.
that could very well need that, but we were never uh, uh, that way. Liz said, "Well, water at the cottage is on point." Yeah, well, water has a different vibe to it.
Yeah. See, I think so funny as it sounds, I think I could accept well water maybe because I get that I feel it's cooler, refresher, something like that. I don't know. My brain's weird.
That's okay. We like you anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really didn't talk that nerdy, but we did talk, and that makes me happy. Um, it is now 4:20 East Coast time. We are just a mere few hours away from a save point where we'll be on stream again. We will be on Old World Charms stream, talking about our nightmare of a game that occurred on Friday. Uh, I don't mean nightmare in a bad way. Just it's a lot, and we will talk about it there. There's some
Yes.
heaviness, uh, but it's okay. It's all fine. It's a game,
Yes.
and we have
It is a
fun doing
game.
it. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, so we're gonna kind of close. We're okay. Liz says, "Speak for yourself." Yep, pretty much. That was a nightmare. Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, so we're going to kind of. I'm gonna sign off here. Monica, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking. I will be having you back.
Absolutely. Yes.
Taylor, we're gonna do a special episode just about Broadway. Liz, we'll have you on individually and talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you want to talk about Broadway as well or anything else, the world's your oyster. I am willing to. I'm always looking for a good guest to have on here, and so. And Liz said, Taylor said, "Have a great day, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you for being
Yes, you
here,
too.
and I appreciate you. And we will be signing off." Um, Listen, I don't know anything about Broadway. You know enough about musicals, you'd be surprised. Um, but yeah, thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you online again in a little bit, Monica.
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
Bye.
bye.